and you can do your bat mitzvah all over again. So we say the Shechianu, it says we're happy to be at this time, this place, this season, again and again and again. So we say together, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu la'azman hazeh. Amen.
Yamod Hagbag Lila.
And while they're doing that, as Rabbi of the congregation, I'm going to present you two with your bar mitzvah certificates. I'm not going to give them to you, though, because you're just going to hand them to your mother. So I'm going to hand them directly to your mother now. I'll save you the step. All right.
We ask Fred, Haley, and Arnie to come up to lift and dress the Torah. Fred, Frankel, Haley Gould, and Arnie Jacobson, please rise as we lift and dress the Torah. V'zot ha'torah asher sham Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Please be seated. Our Benot Mitzvah will continue with their rite of passage by chanting a section symbolically from the Book of Prophets.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar binvi'im tovim v'ratzah v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'torah u'Moshe avdo u'v'yeh ha'emet v'tzedek. Kihi nahara ve'yoladet bein umora lo ya'aleh al rosho ki nazir Elohim yehieh hana'ar min habaten vechu yahel le'oshia et Yisrael miyad plishtim. Vateled ha'isha bein vatigra et shemo Shimshon vayigdal hanar vayivarhehu Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam tzur kol ha'olamim tzadik b'chol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh hamdaber u'mkayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'abdodah ve'al hanvi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha ve'limnuha lehavot ultifaret. Al ha'kol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim la umvarhim ota yibarak shimha befi kol hatamid le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Yasher Koach. And now Liv and Alex are going to share some words of Torah with us. I'm going to ask Liv to sit down because Alex is going to go first. Neither one of them needs to be reminded to speak loudly, slowly, clearly. You would, right? Because you're both very intelligent. I don't need to say that, right? No. Okay.
Why is responsibility so important? Couldn't you just go through life without having to worry about anything and just coast? That's a nice thought, but in reality, it isn't ever going to be true. There is always something that you have to do for you, your family, your friends, your community, and our planet. Every single person has a responsibility on this earth. You might have work that needs to be done, you might have a huge test that you need to study for, and you might have a project due. My Torah portion, Naso, talks about responsibility. You see, everyone in every generation has responsibilities. In Naso, God tells Moses to take a census of the Gershonites and Merarites between the ages of 30 and 50 years because they are responsible for taking care of the tent of meeting. In Naso, God describes to Moses a test for a wife who was accused of being unfaithful. Thankfully, this test was disregarded by later Jewish texts. This has nothing to do with responsibility and is pretty weird. In Naso, God instructs Moses regarding the words of the priestly benediction. God gives Moses a responsibility which God expects him to fulfill. Naso concludes by discussing the laws of the Nazarites. Nazarites were people who did not cut their hair and did many other things, usually for a limited of time, to make themselves holy. Samson was a Nazarite, and it is said that all of his power was in his hair. Nazarites had holy responsibilities. In Naso, I was fascinated by numbers 446 to 49. These verses state that a census was taken of each of the families of the Levite tribe. They were then assigned their responsibilities as God had commanded to Moses. These verses interested me because they show that everyone had a responsibility which needed to be accomplished on the community schedule. Moses took on a responsibility when he agreed to go to Egypt and lead them into freedom. He had to lead the Israelites out of Egypt by persuading the Pharaoh to let them go. He had to keep faith in his people's hearts and let them believe that there will be a promised land. After they left Egypt, he was in charge of organizing the clans and their tasks. He had a lot of responsibility. Aaron was Moses' brother and an Israelite prophet. He was also the first high priest of the Hebrews. Aaron was in charge of all the religious ceremonies at the temple. He was responsible for leading the people in their worship of Adonai. Miriam was Moses' sister and an Israelite leader. It was Miriam who placed Moses in a wicker basket on the Nile River. After crossing the Sea of Reeds, she led the women in song. She was a prophet of Israel, just like her two brothers. She also helped bring water to the people. Miriam had responsibilities as a prophet of the Israelites. Like their leaders, the Israelites had responsibilities in their relationship to God. The Israelites made a covenant with God. The Israelites promised God that they would uphold God's laws to the best of their abilities. In return, God would watch over them and protect them. Their responsibilities included following the 10 Commandments and other biblical laws. I asked my parents how they would describe the word responsibility. My dad said, responsibility is a duty and obligation to those close to us, to our community, and to ourselves. My mom said, following through on our commitments and obligations. I believe that responsibility is a duty that should always be done for you and the people you love. The following is a quote from the Talmud. A person is always responsible, whether their act is intentional or an inadvertent, whether he is awake or asleep. To me, that means wherever you are, whatever you do, you are always responsible for whichever action you do. There is much more to responsibility than taking shorter showers, which, by the way, is very important. You must comfort someone who is in pain, think before you act, and don't act like a jerk. When it is time to fulfill a responsibility, you must act. In my life, I have many responsibilities. I have to clean my room, clear my dishes, and all of those